federal judge just blocked the president from sending National Guard troops to Portland, Oregon, which President Trump has said has been taken over by left-wing domestic terrorists. And I think, by the way, speaking of which, I believe Nick Sortor also just had his charges dropped, which is huge. So the Multnomah County DA, that's where Portland is, has declined to continue up these charges. He was arrested as a working journalist on the ground, targeting all of these things that are going on, just showing us the truth of what's happening. He gets arrested, even though you can see all the videos. He's the one who's being attacked. So God bless Nick Sortor for being out there and doing that. And here's President Trump. If I had to enact it, I'd do it. Talking about the Insurrection Act. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up. You look at what's happened with Portland over the years. It's a burning, I'll just say it, it's a burning hellhole. And then you have a judge that lost her way that tries to pretend there's no problem. Wow. You're running for office. Morgan, what do you think?
Well, I think he's absolutely right. This came up when I was with the Secretary of Defense in his last term. So you might remember Dr. Mark Esper got out in front of the president and said, I don't think there's any need to invoke the Insurrection Act. And that's the biggest difference between Trump 1 and Trump 2, in my mind, is that there aren't people backbiting him in his own administration. And Trump 2, you're not going to hear Pete Hegseth get out and start making a policy call on whether the Insurrection Act needs to be invoked. And we all saw the mostly peaceful protests during BLM in 2020. And I think the president was absolutely right there to say we needed to put those down and save lives in federal buildings and property. Which
Mark Milley apologized for, by the way. I'll never forget this, that Mark Milley, they go and clear out Lafayette Square Park, which is just north of the White House, and Antifa's out there. They're setting fire to St. John's Church, which is just, adjacent to that. It's all sort of in the same complex just beyond the White House, but it still has a lot of Secret Service and a lot of protection there. And they camp out. The Secret Service is doing what they can to at least protect the compound. The President of the United States, remember, they made fun of him.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they brought him down into the bunker. They were making fun of, they were laughing about this. They were setting fire to historic buildings and churches. Again, but setting fires to churches. Where have I heard this one before? And President Trump says, clear them all out. And they go and clear them all out, and they did the walk. Remember, they do the walk?
Right.
You weren't there for the walk, were you?
Yeah, I was not there for the walk.
There for the walk.
But watched the walk, and Mark Milley was later, General Milley was really upset that he had been photographed in that walk.
And he apologizes.
And he apologized. He apologized to Barbara Starr. I think he was upset that, one, he'd worn his camos over to the White House. He liked them because they were roomy, right?
I never understood that, by the way. Why, if you're going to the White House and you're going to be in the Oval, you would wear your Class A's. Absolutely.
Every time.
You would put on.
He didn't like the Class A's.
Probably
was
he
on the large side?
What I'm trying to say, he was a husky size.
So he was probably offended by the Sec War's new directives.
He'd be the first one. I love what Pete Hegseth is saying is we're going to make the generals PT. We're going to hold them to the same standard. Love that. But yeah, he walked across. He was embarrassed by it and apologized by it. That's what got Dr. Esper crossways with the president, because the president makes the policy call, not the Secretary of Defense.
Look, guys, and we should go around and show this, but I mean, the violence that's going on throughout Portland, throughout Chicago, and I believe do we have that clip? Can we play this? Can we play this clip of the Chicago mayor? Because as crazy as Portland gotten, I don't think that we've heard a higher level official from one of these areas say something as horrific as this.
Yeah,
let's at least play the first part of it.
Be able to play it.
Can I just play it here? Okay.
Yeah. The right wing in this country wants a rematch of the Civil War. I want that to sit in right now, because the President of the United States of America has declared war on the people of Chicago and people across America. That's right. He's more interested in giving billions of dollars to other nations, while farmers in urban cities around this country are literally being destabilized.
Yeah, does anyone know what he's talking about the farmers in urban cities?
Dude, he's just making things
up.
Well, this is something I've said.
Where are the urban farmers?
They're pot farmers.
Well, those are words that came out of his mouth.
The liberals, I mean, these leftists, their brains kind of work like LLMs. they just throw words together into a salad bowl and they shake it up and then they pour it out. And after a certain number of times, they find that specific words get them the results that they want, but there's not actually a demonstration of a real understanding of language. This is why they call men women. This is why they call everything they don't like racist. This is why you're a homophobe if, you know, you don't want some pervert dancing in front of your child in drag. I mean, his words mean nothing, and that's why they mean nothing.
Well, I mean, look, the left largely doesn't believe in overarching narratives. There are just tons of postmodernists on the left, so they don't believe in overarching narratives. They don't believe that words actually have meaning.
Exactly.
They believe that words are a tool and words are used to assert power. So the meanings of the words don't matter. They don't have to believe them. And if you look at the postmodernist philosophers like Sartre and Foucault, they say things like, I don't remember exactly who said this, but he said it doesn't matter if I'm actually making a good argument. All that matters is that I'm interesting, because they don't believe in arguments. They don't believe that people can make an argument from an honest position. They believe that it's all about power. And when you have that as an overarching belief, or even if you don't have an overarching belief and you just adopt that mindset, it doesn't matter what I say. All I have to do is say whatever I can say to win the argument.
That's right.
That's what you get. You get these kind of word salad, vomiting of words. And we would hear this with the former vice president, with Kamala Harris. She would just say things, and they didn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, but let's okay. So as crazy as that was, let's go back to the first part of what he just said there. The right wing in this country wants a rematch of the Civil War, which is literally nothing compared. There's nothing that anyone has said at all. No, we want the enforcement of federal law. We want the enforcement of federal law to be done. We want it's something called the Supremacy Clause of the United States Constitution that says that when there is a conflict between state and federal laws, national laws, that it is the federal government that comes first. And we know that in the Constitution, it is very clear that the federal government has the authority to enforce the laws when it comes to immigration. It's really simple. That's all this is. And by the way, we were talking about this before the show, that, those mayors and those governors could have done the work to try to prepare for this coming. They could have tried to help those citizens, or excuse me, they could have tried to help those people get out of there in the first place, help the citizens have relief from this massive influx of illegal aliens that came in. They did nothing. They did absolutely. What were they doing? They were supporting this policy. So no, it is not them who are pushing for civil war at all. It is you, and you, this mayor of Chicago, and it is the officials in Portland that are fighting this, that are the ones that are in rebellion. They are in open rebellion against the federal government.
He doesn't even know his history. I mean, the history is of the South in the Civil War invoking states' rights. What are these people doing? They're invoking the rights. They're setting up sanctuary cities. They're saying you cannot have federal supremacy here. You're not going to move in here. So they've gotten the history completely backwards, which is gaslighting.
This is why they're a death cult, though, because they'd rather sacrifice their city. They let the cities burn. They let innocent people die, and not let Trump or the government protect citizens. So they worship this death.
I completely agree with you. And that's the purpose of it. I've mentioned this on the show before. Leftism is just the intellectual rationalization for social decay. You find these very highfalutin ways of describing your desire to not do the things that you actually have to do as an adult to keep society functioning. And then you call that a belief system, and like certain other people who also want to abdicate all of their responsibility treat it as if you've said something profound because you've given them an out. Mm-hmm. And so that applies to every facet of society, and everything falls apart. We know Jack, I'm sure, would happily tell people about the history of this as a fellow papist, but you look at where the left comes from, it's the French Revolution. That's where we first get this term. And 100%. How did the left enter the world stage? Beheading priests. I don't know if I can describe this on air, but abusing nuns, murdering innocent people. This insane, insatiable bloodlust was how they broke out onto the world stage.
Robespierre,
exactly.
It's the guillotine. This is prior to the Bolshevik Revolution.
The left are the genesis of terrorism because of the French Revolution. The terror during the French Revolution. That's where the term terrorism comes from.
And you might remember the School Board of Education in Chicago, I believe, during 2020 riots, rolling out a guillotine in protest of starting schools again.
Right.
That's insane.
These are the guys who started this. These are the ones who set it up. And you know, my British friends get on me when they say, well, actually, America was the first revolutionary. Okay, but you didn't see that in America. You didn't see that type of revolutionary reprisal violence. Certainly you saw the Revolutionary War, but you didn't see this idea of if people do refuse to go along with the revolution, they'll be destroyed. They smashed the Notre Dame Cathedral, by the way. They smashed all the stained glass windows. This fire in 2019 wasn't the first time it was taken down, attacked, I should say. And it was all the statues out front. I think it was the kings of Israel are the statues, and some of the saints that they all get smashed and destroyed. And the entire cathedral. This is beautiful. It gets converted into what they called a temple of reason. A temple of reason. Wow. And I'm like,
sounds about right.
Okay, so they were just Redditors.
They're like, yes, this is quite reasonable as they're smashing a church
250
window.
years ago, right? That's what they were saying.
Yes.
Like, we do not believe in these superstitions of Christ and Christianity. We believe in reason and wisdom, and that's why we're going to kill all the priests and nuns.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.